Hello everyone, welcome to the PCCI podcast. We recorded this episode with Sharda, Ahmer, and Isam on the opening day of the T20 World Cup. Since then, a few things have changed. So we've added short voice notes from the three of them right at the start to catch you up. But the bigger conversation still remains the same. The sport feels a bit broken right now. There are definitely less or very little bonhomie between everyday fans across the subcontinent. This podcast is just our small way of keeping the conversation going and keeping that dialogue alive. If you have pressed play, we appreciate the commitment. On to the episode now.
मेरे लिए दो चीज़ें सामने आ रही हैं। एक तो पीसीबी चेयरमैन ने इंटीरियर मिनिस्टर और स्टेट एट लार्ज के लिए काफ़ी फेवर किया है, क्योंकि अभी तक जो रिपोर्ट हुआ है कंसेशंस एज अ रिजल्ट ऑफ रिवर्सिंग द बॉयकॉट, उनमें कोई ऐसी चीज़ नहीं है जिससे पाकिस्तान क्रिकेट को डायरेक्टली फ़ायदा हो, बट ऑफ कोर्स ऑन अ डिप्लोमेटिक लेवल इट डज गिव देम सम पॉइंट्स। आई थिंक जो दूसरी चीज़ ये है कि इस बॉयकॉट की जो थ्रेट थी, that has shown that the PCB has some leverage over the ICC and its broadcast revenues, etc. And obviously, is dafa koi, as I said, we haven't there haven't been any concessions reported for the Pakistan Cricket Board, but in the future, if there is some kind of conflict or disagreement, etc., so there is this threat that the PCB can use again, or at least that leverage is now known to the BCCI or the ICC, etc. So that might impact the future going forward.
No matter how this is spun by the narrative control center, that whirls around and that centers itself around the power brokers in Indian cricket. This is pushed back by two countries that don't belong to the big three. This is also a demonstration of the very obvious fact that if you are going to try and drum up this tom-tom, your circus, the way you do, the way the ICC does, the way the Indian cricket broadcasters do, or I assume Pakistani cricket broadcasters do, I'm unaware, of the big rivalry that you have all the time. This shows you that this is the most obvious thing, that for this rivalry, you need two teams to play. You need there to be a respectful acceptance of you and the adversary, you and the competition, you and your opposition. It's just that this is the thing that has been again has been highlighted in a manner that everybody in cricket will notice that it's happened, because it has not happened for the past, I don't know, decade plus. We're hearing stories about it. Whatever everyone says about the role of politics in cricket should not be there. That's a bit late in the day. But I think it's an important thing to note. And also maybe for the ICC to look at the fact that the way they are, they cook the groups every time. It's a bit shoddy. It's a bit non-classy, let me say, and they need to rethink how they're going to do this. The fact that Bangladesh will not receive sanctions for having said we are not going to play in India, it's to be noted. It's unfortunate that there won't be Bangladesh in this World Cup. We've moved on from that now, and Scotland have already had a game in yesterday. It'll be sad. But it's been there. But they won't be punished for this. They'll get an ICC event for this. And there were reports in Cricinfo that talked about taking a look at the redistribution of revenues. I don't know how that will go, because if there's one thing that the Cricket Australia and ECB want to protect, it's their accounts, it's their share of the pie. But I think this is a big development. The reason I think it's an important development is not because it'll shake the foundations of how cricket is run in the world at all, or the power or the hegemony of the BCCI on the global game and on other smaller member boards. But it actually shows you how problems can be addressed. I mean, this should have happened actually maybe 10 days ago, 15 days ago, when the Bangladesh situation started to rumble. This is how you went and you had a conversation with them. Apparently they said yes, we did have a conversation, we did have online meetings and all the rest of it. But I would not. The messages coming out of that from narrative control center, as I call it, were just threats. This will happen, that will happen. You will not be able to play bilateral cricket only. that kind of stuff that was there. So basically, it was like dhamki, and you don't deal with your member countries with dhamki. I mean, they're there to play. So it's interesting that it was from the ICC. It was Imran Khwaja who went to talk with the PCB, and BCB was also there. Bangladesh Cricket Board people were also there, and it wasn't either the chairman or the CEO. And they'll say, okay, we didn't get visas, which is a reasonable answer, which is reasonable. It's very possible. But you would want them to be part of the online meetings, I assume. You'd want there to be a press conference, I assume. But there's nothing. There's at that end there is sort of silence.
I think it's a very interesting development in the wider context of world cricket going forward. I think the usual narrative was in the last, say, 10-15 years that BCCI will rule the roost and everything will be decided by them and they'll call the shots. Of course, I think they will keep calling the shots, but I think PCB has shown that resistance can come in many forms, and maybe holding that India-Pakistan match ransom was a way to deflect a bit of I mean just showing up to the BCCI or the ICC that things can go wrong if you're taking too much control. So I think on that front, I mean, however PCB has done it, they have done it, and I think it's very smart of them to not take a lot of things in return for the dispute. I think the dispute itself was to their favor ultimately, and I feel that what Bangladesh has got, it's not a lot, but it's the acknowledgement that they have been craving from the ICC, the attention. They got the ICC attention, and I think the extra ICC event will be a boost if it actually pans out that way. They were supposed to be co-hosts of 2031 World Cup with India, but 2028 it's likely to be an under-19 World Cup, so they're getting that. And the fact that there will not be any strong punishment against Bangladesh, that is a good sign. But I feel that overall, it was a win for the PCB in this situation, and maybe going forward, this sort of mess is not welcome in world cricket. But from a diplomatic standpoint, or from a situation where one country is calling all the shots, maybe this is the first time that we have seen some resistance.
That's 4 in a row. There is good. They're going to pull next. The prodigal son turned Messiah gets his second 100 in successive.
I also wonder, ideologically, you should boycott Pakistan. The Taliban has made unpopular decisions because that's what their ideology states. Lots of people make unpopular ideological decisions, but you keep playing Pakistan, and it's not like you love Pakistan. You're not going to shake hands. You're going to celebrate with a fake trophy and whatever. So that sort of disappointed by the lack of ideological adherence that the BJP has shown, because both from, either you could have gone the Arnab way and just boycott everything, blah, 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 or you could have gone the Saudi way and used this to project your power, even if it goes against your core ideology. The fact that they've done nothing, the fact that they've been so unambitious, that to me, honestly, 2016 Ahmer could not have predicted that at all. And that's been kind of...
India won in dramatic style. The whole of Bengal are on their feet.
The air goal! Not that important. He's gone the next ball. The dream has diminished for Carlos Brathwaite. Unbelievable scenes here at the Broadway.
All right. So let me take you back to 2004. 2004 is the year where India tours Pakistan. And it's the same year when Farah Khan released Main Hoon Na. Main Hoon Na was about releasing prisoners from either side of India and Pakistan. And the man who eventually made it happen was Major Ram Prasad Sharma, aka Shah Rukh Khan. Somehow in 2026, if you think about it, everything that's happening in international cricket around us goes back to Shah Rukh Khan. It's important to share that you must focus on Shah Rukh's surname. He's the co-owner of Kolkata Knight Riders, and was asked by the BCCI to remove Mustafizur Rahman, the Bangladesh cricketer, from his team, while on the same evening, Shakib Al Hasan played for Mumbai Indians franchise in the IL T20. I don't think Shah Rukh can execute any Project Milaap for his beloved game cricket, but the closest we can is by keeping a line of communication open between people from all countries. Exclusion is a Hindutva mechanism. Inclusion is a Western concept. To execute this smallest project Milaap, not just between India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh and the rest of the subcontinent, we have with us Sharda Ugra, Mohammad Isam, and Ahmer Naqvi, joining Richa, Sarthak, Nishant, and I for this blockbuster of a podcast. So, welcome to the pod, Sharda, Isam Bhai, and Ahmer.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much. ये बहुत कभी खुशी कभी गम वाला cast लग रहा है, you know. All the big hitters are here.
Listen, I'm not going to
Yes,
Jai
thank,
Badriya, please.
thank you guys for inviting me.
Right. So, my first
Given that
question
Ahmer's
is
come late, is he Shah Rukh Khan because he's coming from the chopper?
That's a
Helicopter.
really good point. But I think only Sharda can be Shah Rukh. There's
I
king
agree.
for king. There's no other comparison
Fair.
in this era.
I am not
so-
arguing at all in this matter. Being a person not given to any kind of argument.
all right then. My first question is to Sharda. Rajdeep asked on his channel, have we become bullies? Not to reuse this question, but it seems to be rejected a lot by Indian commentators. They say this is the ICC, not BCCI. There was a board vote, 14-2. And that's why, and our venue was changed months before, not just within a month. So I ask a question that Richa has asked on this pod previously to quite a few people. Who does international cricket exist to serve?
Oh, I have to answer the question. You mean in
This-
theory or in practice?
You can
Both.
decide to answer in whatever way you want, Sharda.
There was a point in time where the BCCI used to blame everything on ICC. Now I'm talking back like 10, 15 years. Ke, "Arey, ICC ne kiya," and all that. And if there was something against, like say, players ko falana contract, you have to sign for ambush marketing or whatever. And all of us kept saying, look, all of you are ICC. Correct. There is this whole body of people, which includes England, Australia, India, South Africa, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, New Zealand, and West Indies. And you're all ICC, so that's why you're there. Now, this 14-2 number that they give is quite comic for the simple reason that we know why 14 is 14 and why 2 is 2. It's very, very obvious that the ICC has become a body that is largely serving the interests of a cricket body, which is the largest in the world, and is the one that has the most money, and therefore uses that money to, open quotes, bully people, close quotes. So, yeah, that's the answer. That is, have we become the bullies? It's been a while. It's been, say, maybe for the last 8 years, 10 years. Because of the fact when you change the revenue distribution, you changed everything. You change the whole game in that sense.
Sharda, you wrote a wonderful article today, and that we will urge all of our readers to go through. It's on Hindustan Times. And you wrote about, the grandest of all World Cups and how T20 World Cup truly, at least, I mean, the 50 over World Cup has a legacy bit going for it, but T20 World Cup truly captures the idea that the World Cup should be for everybody. And we will this time miss Bangladesh. Can you talk through your article? I mean, we have this kind of an abrasive reaction to T20 World Cup in general. And just can you help our readers understand the atmosphere that we're trying to capture, you tried to capture in your article?
Thanks. Thank you, Sarthak, for your very kind words. I mean, the thing is that I have always been a fan of T20 internationals. Yeah? I am not a franchise cricket fan. I understand the model. I understand why it's successful and how it's important and all the rest of it. But I love T20 internationals because it is an internet. I mean, I'm used to nation versus nation cricket. I love it. And because it's so mad and crazy, and everyone says it shouldn't be held every 2 years. Okay, maybe yes, but it's held every 2 years. I don't mind because it's literally, it gets over within 3 weeks, and it's just, you get crazy results. You get all kinds of team doing mad things. We're seeing what's happened within the space of 12 hours, that Pakistan almost got toppled by Netherlands, and India 8 down out of against United States. So you won't get those kind of mad kind of results if you're playing, say, 50 over cricket, or if you're playing test cricket and so on. So that's the beauty of it. That's all the madness that comes into it. I'm really happy that there are 20 teams, And I know that I was forwarded a piece that you had done, that PCCI had done on Substack about this thing of matches being blowouts if you have these more teams. And that's a great example to say, like, just don't brush everything under one random brush because it suits something that it suits a purpose that you want. And the more teams that play cricket, the better. I mean, and the smaller teams that come from smaller countries, even more fantastic. I'm a big sucker for sports movies and whatever, and that I saw and sort of videos and songs and whatever. I really enjoy them. So I even wrote in the piece that I did for HT that the this is our year karke there is a feel the thrill or something that I don't even know the song, but it's a great song. It's a great it's got all this bhangra beat and it's got everything. There are people who say it's shit and it's not sophisticated and all of that, but I just love it. And in that you've got all these visuals of teams from everywhere, including Oman and then suddenly you see Scotland and you say where's Bangladesh and where are those tigers? The stuffed tigers. Why are they not there? There's lots of Pakistan. There's large doses of India, Australia, and all the other teams. But you see that then you see the game and its variety and its sort of eccentricity and all of that. So that's what I felt bad about is that we won't have Bangladesh in this because of, suppose Bangladesh are not or any team are not qualified, then you say okay they didn't make it for whatever reason. But this is like completely it just feels so wrong. And that I wrote that piece about that the beauty of T20 World Cups is that it's the so Rasesh from Hindustan Times he actually I just read it. I said shit. I wish I thought of that. He called it the People's World Cup. It's everybody loves 2020 cricket. Everybody can relate to it. So he called it the People's World Cup, and I said, "Arey, I should have thought of that," but I did. But yeah, so shout out to Rasesh Mandani for that in his article, also in the Hindustan Times today. So yeah, basically that's what my piece was about.
So, keeping the sadness of the fans in mind, I wanted to start with Isam Bhai with you. What has been the reaction in Bangladesh to the fans finding out that they're not going to be playing in this World Cup. They're not going to get to go to the Eden Gardens and, celebrate along with their team. And they're really passionate fans.
Thank you. Thank you for your question, Richa. You'll be surprised to know that there are fans who are actually, there are fans who are not too unhappy that Bangladesh aren't playing the World Cup. If you could believe that. I mean, whether they're fans or not, you can ask that question, but it goes back a little. It has two basic explanations that you can add. It's firstly, obviously, there's an anti-India rhetoric in Bangladesh right now, which is being pushed hard by the interim government who came to power in August 2024 on the back of the Army League exiting the country in a violent student revolution where plenty of thousands of students were killed by the government. Obviously, they didn't take any responsibility for that. And since the deposed prime minister went to India, it solidified the hatred that people had towards India from a political standpoint and from a populist standpoint, I think. Although Bangladesh did travel to India in October 2024, I think September, October, when they played 2 test matches and 3 T20Is. It was mostly incident free at that time, and not many questions were asked about that tour, which is strange because it was just after the revolution and with Sheikh Hasina already in New Delhi, it didn't really have a lot of effect on the fans or the general public. But this one came in the back of a number of political incidents um, over throughout December. Towards the end of December, one major incident happened, and then there are fringe groups which have become extra violent in the last 6 or 8 months, and they are mostly anti-Indian and anti-Indian, I would say, stance that they have. So by the time the Mustafiz incident reached our ears, it was already at an edge, and then you had the Mustafiz thing happening. And when the sports advisor, who also happens to be the country's law advisor, like the law minister, sports minister, they're now called advisors because they're in the interim government. Um, the initially, because of how the comments are on Facebook, it was pretty much like, yeah, don't go to India. Let's not go to India if they cannot, if they're not, if they're going to withdraw Mustafiz. That's our way of protesting. It went on for a while. And then when it came to the around mid-Jan, um, when the ICC started to say that if you don't play in India, you're not going to play in the World Cup. Uh, some fans have told me, it's not just people that I know, I've heard it online as well, that since Bangladesh, they don't do well in World Cups, let's just sit this one out. It was out of frustration, out of anger, it's not the general point of view, Richa, it's not the general point of view, but there are certain opinions that were never heard before. But because of how this discourse was presented in front of them, that, if you don't go to India, it's a political stance, but it's a popular stance. It was popular. I'll be very honest with you. It was very popular, and it turned out to be sort of like a government masterstroke in the sense that it did galvanize a lot of people. Um, whether it is anti-cricket, we can discuss it, but I think to answer your question, yeah, I mean, fans are going to miss the World Cup because now that the World Cup has already started, I can hear a few murmurs like, they could have gone, they could have played. What if they were playing? Someone was telling me the other day, a casual follower, that, it's still the World Cup. It was good conditions. The team was doing well. What if they did go? But again, that thought process that a large group of people in Bangladesh had, that okay, let's not go to India, let's go to Sri Lanka and play. They still had time. People thought that, they could have changed things in like a month. I mean, there were lots of jokes around, but there was one particular line that I remember that, remember the 2023 World Cup when the ICC named everything very late? I think the schedule was out very late, like in the last minute. So they said if they can do it so late, I mean, without knowing all the details, I mean, they're just saying that if they can do it that late, why can't they change the venue for one team a month or so before the tournament? Anyways, lots of discussions on those topics here in Bangladesh, but right now it has gone a little quiet. I mean, there's a tiny little tournament happening in Dhaka right now with all the Bangladesh players being asked to play, and the BCB is trying to make it, you know. The BCB are trying to make it a bit of a fun experience for everyone with bands, rock bands coming in for the matches as well. But I mean, everyone is pretty clear what we are missing out.
So I have the same question to Ahmer from the Pakistani fan point of view. What have you been hearing? Like, are the Pakistani fans? Uh, I don't know, because all the Pakistani colleagues and friends that I have here, they first of all are not that much into cricket. So, and for them, it's like, India se to hum haar hi jate hain, so might as well not play. Um, but have you been hearing something else, or like, what do you think? Like, you're on mute, sorry.
Yeah. So I think first of all, within Pakistan, and obviously it's very hard to speak for the fandom, and particularly like I'm not much on social media, etc. So I'm not going to pretend I can speak for everyone, but personally, and maybe in my peers, one thing that's been really shocking has been seeing how oblivious the general cricketing world is about what's going on, right? And so I thought of this while I was waiting to speak, and it's really good. It might not be relevant, but like I just want to give my flowers to Sharda because I said she's Shah Rukh, right? Like if you look at Bollywood in the late 80s, it's all these like men who are big muscles and angry and don't smile and can't act. Bollywood's kind of losing its flair, and it's just this aggro macho kind of place. And then this guy comes around, Shah Rukh, and he's both more intense than your Sunny Deols and Sanjay Dutts, and he's also more charming than them. I think Sharda is like that because all the rest of your, cricket media, not just in India, is all these big Sanjay Dutts and Sunny Deols and being like, how dare Pakistan do anything? Like, I want to call out some Goras also, right? So let's go with Jeff Lemon. Jeff Lemon, in this rant on Pakistan being nihilistic, this and that, great points. He says Bangladesh absented themselves from the tournament, and I want to focus on that because I think as a Pakistani, I was really shocked by how things were being phrased by the rest of the global media to make sense of what's going on. So Jeff Lemon says Bangladesh absented themselves, and it's a remarkable control of the English language to come up with this reality based on what's actually happening. Because obviously, we know Bangladesh was expelled because one of its players was being given threats um, publicly that the Indian Cricket Board did nothing about. I assume Jeff Lemon is, aware of these things, but I don't understand what world he called it absent themselves. I'll give you another example. Matt Hughes in The Guardian last night wrote, he wrote that there is a $3 billion deal between JioStar and the ICC, and it's predicated on Pakistan playing India in every tournament, which is, by the way, not written into the contract. And so he says, because every tournament is supposed to have a Pakistan India game, and because the deal is $3 billion, therefore every Pakistan India game is worth 500 million US dollars to the international economy. And that's what we're losing by boycotting this match. I think like even a child can understand that this kind of logic is stupid and flawed. So to me, I really like, it's one thing for the Vikrant Guptas of the world to be batting for the Indian Cricket Board. I really don't understand why the Gora journalists are going around and doing this. And so as a Pakistani, I feel like there's definitely the sense of like, what world are we living in? Because we're able to call this out. And again, like Pakistani, am I talking about the interior minister who heads our board? Am I talking about the fans, whatever? I'm just speaking to normal Pakistanis. I think in that sense, that reaction has been a bit shocking to see that, people who are paid to analyze the game are saying such short-sighted things about it and have such little understanding of how the game operates. Like, if you really think that a Pakistan India game is worth 500 million US dollars and no other game has any value, then maybe you should think about what it implies when one of those boards are kicking out teams or setting up hybrid tournaments or refusing to play other teams or refusing to let players play. So I think to answer your question, like the Pakistanis, I think are a bit flabbergasted because there is well, again, maybe they're not, or they're making a huge generalization, but for me at least, it's been pretty surprising to see that ostensibly neutral journalists with a really good sense of politics and culture, etc., are still coming away and saying really silly things, really basic things. I think there's no doubt that Pakistan's decision was politically motivated. There's no doubt that the current setup in Pakistan is benefiting hugely from the propaganda win that came from this, particularly as there are very, very major issues happening in other arenas in Pakistan that this is a welcome distraction from. But I think within the cricketing world, the fact that so many people are not even able to understand why this happened, what led to this happening, I think that is just really upsetting. It's really worrying. It's kind of pathetic that this is the level of insight that the game's best minds have to offer.
Yeah, I think
So I'm gonna bring in.
I was most disappointed. Sorry, yeah, I was
Go
just
ahead.
saying the most disappointing take was from Jeff for me as well, because
Yes.
usually the final word, they understand what's going on, or at least they speak out loud. But yeah, I also heard what he said, and uh, very disappointing.
Yeah. So I think the most interesting thing that I have read so far, the most interesting take on this is from friend of the pod, Sushant Singh. He says that pointing out Pakistan's dysfunction does not justify India's actions, right? And this, like, if Pakistan's problem is chaos and incompetence, India's is something more sinister, systematic, and corrosive to the sport itself. The BCCI in India is no longer a sporting body. Like, that is, you hit the nail on the head here. And it's really shocking to me that commentators in in Australia are not getting this, but for some reason, I think English commentators are, which has been interesting. Like Nasser Hussain, he still spoke in literally the mildest terms. Like he literally said, okay, if India or Australia come in and say a month before the tournament that, we don't want to play here, let's change this into a more hybrid setting. would the ICC accept this request or not? And just pointing out in very simple, basic terms that there is so much unfairness in the system here. And I want to bring in Sharda now. I just want to say, like, what are your thoughts on what Nasser Hussain said and the meltdown that happened after that on the internet and everywhere, specifically because it was Nasser Hussain?
By the way, before
See,
Sharda
I'm
starts, so
not.
today I think
Ah,
there is sorry Sharda, today there is an Express article or yesterday that Nasir Hussain set to commentate on T20 World Cup despite siding with Pakistan on India-Pakistan issues.
I mean, that too is beyond even commenting. Emma, please, thank you for many flattering things you have said with me. I'm so happy. But I'm just saying here that so Nasser said absolutely the right thing. There was one more comment while you're at it. Apparently, this is I was in my outside Bangalore city, all this madness. So apparently, Peter Lalla and Gideon said Pakistan is only relevant in the cricketing world due to his rivalry with India. Like hell no.
Yes.
What is the meaning of this? I mean, I should not get agitated and start shouting absolutely the Harridan kind of, hysterical woman trope. I could not believe it when I read it. I was like, yeah, like you have just erased 75 years of a cricketing history of stars, players, reverse swing, everything. I mean, what is this? Every country is cricket exists in its own way and it interacts with all other countries that it plays cricket with. Okay, number one. Then your point about the Richa, what you're saying about what it's all fine. My other grounds, which I'm coming back to here, which I'll say every time, no Australian cricket journalist or English cricket journalist goes after their boards for being sidekicks to BCCI's bullying. You please tell me. I've said this before. I mean, they're just sitting quietly. They're saying nothing. You should actually. I mean, suppose you had turned this into instead of 14-2, it had become 10-4. It doesn't mean that they would have won, but you have got two stronger countries saying, I don't think this is the right thing to do. Oh, why are you not doing it? And so the meltdown that came on to Nasser, I have not read. I do not know. Alison Mitchell did a podcast, very sort of sober, reasoned, and distinct podcast, but she had a great line in that, in which she said that she asked the question: "Is world cricket a castle built on sand?" So listen, yeah, it's a question to ask. When she found out about this, they were talking. She, Charu, Sharma, and there was another person in Australia. I'm sorry, I didn't get his name. He wasn't Glenn Maxwell, who normally does the program. And I was just thinking that this is a world game. Why do you guys stop thinking about the fact that it's a world game? And there are, along with BCCIs, whatever it is, there are these other two big countries that are sitting absolutely silent on this. There is no sense of responsibility that you have for anybody else other than your own. I get very angry as his CEOs and his new yacht every year and all, which is absolutely, it's like $500 million wala statement like that. Kya hai wo calculation? Acha, now suddenly the second narrative that started is that no, actually this match doesn't matter that much. You don't lose that much money. Okay, then do you play them why do you put them in the same group all the time? Why do you play them at least twice against each other? What is the point of this that you're doing? So there is so much of I don't know, I don't know whether spinelessness is the right word or whatever. There's so much of hypocrisy and so much of trying to create some. No, there's a great phrase given to me by one cricketer friend of mine, one of the few that I have. Bubble of bullshit. There is like a bubble of bullshit that goes on the whole time when it comes to discussions where you actually can say straight things. No, you're just sitting in this bubble of bullshit and talking nonsense. And okay, social media is also adding to it, and I'm not saying no, that social media doesn't have a say when it comes to attacking people and whatever. But this is bubble of bullshit only. This whole conversation and narrative building and fans and not fans. I mean, people who are saying कि ये नहीं होना चाहिए, हाँ इसको निकालो, उसको निकालो, the bubble of bullshit on the conversation. This is what the money. There's no transparent sort of accounting of what this money is. What is the share? You only have some percentage calculation. You have worked out that Australia and England are quietly sitting over that their revenue distribution model, and that's what they're doing. And because you agreed to that, you're all in this position where you are being ordered around by BCCI because they control the purse, they control the money.
And speaking of its effects, also, I mean, I think there is a underestimation of what the effect of the purse is. I think the ostracization of Pakistani cricketers within the global game is quite underestimated. We just think, okay, we don't play them. But IL T20 may only desert vipers as Pakistani cricketers, if I'm not mistaken. And once Indian owners have SAT20, they already have all the teams in SA20. Once they start having teams in England and Australia, there will be an obvious impact that will happen there. And as that's happening in the ILT20 league.
There is that
Isam bhai,
effect in England already.
already, right? Isam bhai, I wanted to ask,
Yeah,
is
it
there a
was.
fear?
Sorry.
Please go
Isam,
ahead, please go ahead.
1 second. On that Nasser and Michael Atherton interview,
Yeah.
I think they did say that the ECB was going to be very careful and keep track that everyone should be allowed to play. I mean, I would be very happy if that happened. Sorry, you can go ahead with your questions
No,
after
I
But
mean,
how will
again,
they? There's no way
yes,
to enforce it, right? How, like, I mean, if the franchises themselves just shadow ban, then what can you do?
our guy will call them England Super Giants. 2 days it will take. They'll just rename the national team to England Super Giants. Then what?
Sorry.
Yeah, and I think there's another England Australia context is that Australia also they're about to sell large stakes in their BBL,
Hmm.
right? That should send shivers down the spine of Pakistani cricketers. You're really limited in the options of where you can play even franchise cricket. Like that's got to be like a stifling thing. And I want to bring Isam Bhai again into this. You know, is there any worry within Bangladesh that you might have to face the same ostracization that Pakistan is facing or Pakistani cricketers are facing around the world as a result of this?
Well, it's not that big of a deal because not many Bangladeshis actually play in franchise cricket. I think recently Rishad Hussain, the leg spinner, was playing in the Big Bash. Obviously, Mustafiz was called up to the IPL and not playing. But generally, Bangladeshi cricketers, they don't really play a lot of franchise cricket. You have Taskin, you have Mustafiz, you have Shakib, who interestingly played for I think the Mumbai Indians equivalent team in the ILT20, the team owned by the Reliance Group.
MI
So
Emirates.
MI Emirates, right? Yeah. So it's quite limited. And also there's like hardly any chance of any foreign investment in a BPL team because it's so dysfunctional. No one really is interested, and you have a lot of Pakistani players playing in the BPL. And I was seeing one of the tweets recently that I think one of the highest paid, I think Shahid Afridi is the highest paid player ever in a franchise league, and that $700,000 has come from his BPL contract, whenever that was.
What about the board? So the board's finances, because what I have read is that a lot of what the BCB makes and the money that they have is from their investments rather than organic growth. So what is
Yeah.
their ability to tolerate this kind of an issue, and including like not having bilateral ties with India maybe later in the year? I think that tour has been cancelled. Like, do they think that they can tide over this, or they really need that to be restored?
Well, two parts to that answer. I think firstly, the fact that they haven't played this World Cup. I mean, whichever the circumstances, the ICC can come down hard on them. I mean, there we have heard about a fine for missing out these three matches, which may not happen because Scotland has stepped in and they brought in Scotland. Maybe that was to mitigate that fine part. That's one. The second part is obviously whatever happens to Bangladesh's ranking. I think the yearly payment or the 5 yearly cycle payment depends a little bit on the team's accumulated ranking in the three formats. So if Bangladesh goes down, that might have an effect. But major concern here among a lot of these cricket experts and analysts and well-known cricket officials here is obviously the relationship with BCCI and where it's going to stand after this whole mess with the national elections just days away. We're actually just 5 days away from that national election. That holds the key. I think whoever comes to power, they have to mend fences with India, not just for cricket. I think generally whatever has happened. I mean, the export import and all the other commercial side is okay. The flights are ongoing. Things are still normal in that sort of neighborly ways, but the cricket thing has obviously touched a lot of nerves, and that's where the BCB has completely failed in managing that relationship. Taking the diplomatic routes, or I mean, again, I understand that the ICC and the BCCI came down very hard on Bangladesh. But again, from a Bangladeshi point of view, there were a few things that the BCB could have done differently or could have done properly to make sure that the government's target could be fulfilled. At the same time, the cricketers don't miss out on a World Cup. I think in that front, a lot has changed in the BCB. It's a very new cricket board with a lot of inexperienced people, and you know, there are plenty of battles in other ends as well, with players and with other officials, with other teams here, domestic level. So I think to answer your question, there is a bit of concern about what the ICC might end up doing, but I think that's another place where the PCB might push the ICC into the other direction, that okay, don't fine Bangladesh, don't put any financial restrictions on them. But what the BCB does with the BCCI depends on this election, and then what happens with that tour, as you just mentioned. Indian Express filed a news almost immediately after Bangladesh, where the first time that the Bangladesh government said that we might not go to India or we will not go to India. That's when they filed the news that that tour is over. It was an easy thing to say at that time, but from what I understand, it's still not off the table. It's still not gone from the BCB's plate. So they're still hoping that with a change government, the BCCI, first of all, can be convinced, and also BCCI might think that that's another olive branch that they want to go forward with, because they have already postponed the tour in 2025. This is already a rescheduled tour. So let's see if that happens, then you can say that things are slightly better. But there are concerns here.
Tour is actually a good segue. I'll zoom out a bit. One of our favorite books, and I think speak for all of us on the pod, is Rahul Bhattacharya's Pandits from Pakistan. Now, the prose is one part of it, the lyrical prose and the fluidity and the way he describes cricket, however he does. But the biggest takeaway as young readers reading that book the first time was how cricket became background score. It became about Rahul, an Indian reporter experiencing Pakistan, and he painted a picture of Pakistan in its complete, the entire mosaic of Pakistan, how the people are, how he was treated, and everything else. I want to talk to Ahmer here. I mean, do you reckon now there is a complete fissure we've put in on how the average Joe in India recognizes the average Joe in Pakistan? Do you think that conversation, that recognition that, they are our neighbors essentially, so there is a lot of the shared culture, but other than that, they are not the ones sitting in the government taking decisions, they're just average people like we are. Do you think that is getting impacted and that is also showing up in the diaspora Indians and Pakistanis?
I think something really great about trying to use culture as propaganda is that it only goes so far. People take from culture what they would like. And I think that we definitely, there's a lot more jingoism than there was back then. It's obviously difficult to compare those two eras. You're talking about a pre-social media era, and when I spoke to, if I spoke to somebody back then, there was obviously a lot more ignorance about India. And post-social media, for both sides, in some ways, there's a lot more understanding. I think in other ways, I'm sure Indians are as well. I'm frequently surprised by some things that people are, have misconceptions around, maybe younger people as well. But I think if we want to give some kind of evidence, you only have to look at the music scene in Pakistan, where particularly after the pandemic, Spotify comes to Pakistan, YouTube had already been there, and the local music scene is really, the kind of pop urban music scene is really blowing up, and especially the rap scene, and all of that is really thanks to India. The audience is in India. And I think a good example of that was when an Indian rapper, Neezy, kind of called out Pakistan's Talanjum, and then Talanjum releases a song. It's viral on both sides of the border. In fact, the hip hop scene refers to itself as Desi hip hop. It refuses to choose between India and Pakistan. So just a small example, not representative of the whole populations, but what it signifies to me is that we have millennia of shared relation. So you're not going to undo it with like banning a match or a song or whatever the hell it is. So I think there's that. I also want to just go back a little to we were discussing the finances of the sport, and and I'd been complaining about the fact that it's one thing for Indian journalists to say certain things, but like the way that all these foreign journalists are parroting regime lines, are essentially acting as regime journos. And one of the things they keep saying is like, oh my God, the smaller cricket boards are going to get so hurt by this, by Pakistan boycott. And first of all, like the smaller cricket boards are hurt when you don't play matches with them, when you don't let them qualify for tournaments, when you don't give them an equal chance to play everybody equally. That's what hurts the smaller boards. Get the fuck away with your concern about the smaller boards' finances when this is what you've put up with for the last 10, 15 years. It's pathetic. Secondly, there's this idea that, oh, this broadcaster deal that was signed, that was, I don't know, Allah came and set the terms because it was obviously perfect, and it's Pakistan's boycott that destroyed it. Disney Star, before it became GeoStar, paid $3 billion for ICC rights for just within India. Before that, they paid 2 billion for rights for all over the planet. They paid 1.5 times more that just for India. They paid per match, I think it's $15 million what they paid for every ICC match. So like right now, West Indies and Ireland or whoever is playing,
Scotland.
they paid Scotland. They paid more money for that than than the total cost of an IPL game. An IPL game after the 2022 rights was, including digital and broadcast, $12 million per game. ICC games were $15 million per game. Who signed this deal? It's an insane deal. There's no one on the planet who can make it profitable if you really think that Indian audiences are going to watch random countries more than they'll watch an IPL match. So it's a terrible, terrible, terrible deal. And it's not working. It's not just the ICC deal that's not working out. The IPL deal was overpriced as well. No one really wants to talk about that. It's very easy to talk about, oh, ICC games tournament is boring and this and that and Pakistan, India and blah, blah, blah. Why is the IPL deal also a noose around the neck of the broadcasters? And the final thing, and I think something that no one wants to acknowledge, is that what we've realized is that the party is over for the Indian economy. The exponential growth that the investments were being made in, when you look at those 2022 rights and what kind of logic, if any, was being employed, the logic was that the Indian market is going to keep growing exponentially. OTTs are going to break the stranglehold of cable. Well, what we've seen over the last 4 years is that the IPL market has only increased by like 10 revenues from advertisements and increased about 10 to 15%. But the investment for those rights has increased exponentially. So what I'm trying to get at is that there is a massive economic contraction that is around the corner in world cricket that has nothing to do with Pakistan boycotting matches or not. It all has to do with the broadcaster first overpaying wildly, and then whoever you want to blame, the BCCI or the ICC, really getting in bed with the broadcaster and being like, "Acha batao, what do you want us to do?" And there's this expectation that the next round of the rights are going to be severely downgraded. The downgrade has happened because if the Indian television market or OTT market had grown at the rate these investments were being made at, we wouldn't be worrying about this. What has happened is that almost from, I don't know, the 90s onwards, where the growth of the Indian economy has kept growing cricket as a whole, that gravy train has come to a stop. And if Pakistan had, you could kick Pakistan out of international cricket, that reality is not going to change. And I think that's something where it's the responsibility of journalists who make a living following this sport, who are willy-nilly saying, okay, oh, $500 million, $30 million, Pakistan hurting smaller boards. Bro, get off your laptops, do some research, and think about what's happening over here, because it's really the economic jhatka that cricket is about to get is not about this one match, and no one is really being able to articulate that very well. And so I'm sorry, Nishant, I know the question was about to be how Pakistani fans are feeling about this, but I think there is an important thing to be said over here as well. Okay, you can take Pakistani fans out of the equation, you can take Pakistan out of the equation. There is a looming financial implosion coming for Indian cricket, and it's not just the ICC deal. Even the IPL deal is overpriced. What's going to happen then? That is actually an existential problem for cricket, not Pakistan boycotting one group game.
I think, Amber, just before you come in again and tell us about the real feelings of Pakistan fans, I must add here for the listeners is that the IPL deal was always going to fail purely for the fact that 50% of that deal goes to the BCCI because it conducts the IPL. That's it, just because it conducts the IPL. I mean, middleman 50% कहाँ से लेता है भाई? I mean, there has to be some end game to that as well, right? And one day Mukesh Ambani is going to get up and like कि बहुत हो गया अमित भाई, अभी ये नहीं दे सकते हैं 50% आपको.
आप
And
पार्टी
that
हैं या ब्रोकर?
हाँ, exactly. So yeah,
Does Emma get the
The
reference?
sorry, the ignorance of journalists also when they throw out money numbers. I'll throw out one more, which I heard on a pretty mainstream podcast by now, by a mainstream Indian commentator who's commentating at the World Cup, and he thought that Pakistan had got $500 million to host the Champions Trophy.
uh,
So
what's
lots
the
of
name of
ignorance.
Batman's
For
friend?
for viewers who cannot see, Emma has fallen off his chair. Laughing.
No,
I'm gonna
to
unmute so
add to
they can
that
hear me laughing.
500 to add to that 500 million thing, I have another question to ask basically, Ahmed. What do the passionate fans in Pakistan truly feel?
I will highly encourage people to just Google that phrase or at least search it on Twitter and then enjoy the next 15-20 minutes of their lives.
Maybe, but this the associate board argument that they're not going to get the money. Well, you guys own the board. You're winning votes by 14-2. You can easily like change the financial agreement for them to get more money. Like, how is that even an argument? Why is there so much hand-wringing saying, ki, oh no, now we can't do anything about the associate boards and Pakistan is doing this and
बेचारे
this is what's
भिखारी, हाँ?
yeah,
बेचारे
like
गरीब,
what?
गरीब, हाँ? गरीब board.
Yes, absolutely. Like this helplessness. Shada, I want to bring you in next about,
I'm very bad at these
following
numbers and
Emma's
maths and
argument.
these deals and all that, except I understood these deals with one clear explanation given to me by one of my friends who works in the business. He said, see, why do people pitch for so much money in these deals that they do? Because it is basically other people's money. It's not their money. So they pitch, and if they win successfully, then it's great. Anyway, now you can ask your question.
No, I wanted to talk about like the hypocrisy in basically the hypocrisy of all of the journalists and not being able to call this out. Like Amber had a really good uh, he talked about this really well there. But what are we doing to South Asian cricket? Like it just fills me up with so much sadness, right? Because now Sri Lanka, of course, is not happy because the fixture in Sri Lanka got cancelled, the India-Pakistan fixture.
Not yet.
You know,
By the way, today's news has come is that some talks are underway. Anyway, deep talks are happening. So there's the narrative control center, as I call it, has said that there is this discussion going on, in which Pakistan has written to the ICC in response to ICC asking them what is force majeure in this situation or something like that. That is the story that has come. So you may proceed with your question.
so my question is like, what is the impact to South Asian cricket right now? Because now this is the first time where actually the fissures have bubbled up and and an international tournament is at risk. It's not just bilaterals and things happening like untold statements going to IPL owners saying you should not bid on Pakistani players. Like this is not an
Yeah.
open policy; it's actually an unknown policy. So now that all the fissures have come to the fore, what are the impacts that we can see to South Asian cricket?
So the first thing about the question about the journalists that you ask is that there are journalists I know that are filing stories, and that it's at the editorial level, at the leadership level, that it gets pushed back. I know that there are young reporters that are there, they've got the stuff, and they say no one's going to publish it. Boss doesn't want it published. Boss doesn't says no. Boss is okay. Boss is okay. That one level boss up says no. So those pressures are definitely very much under happening with journalists in India. There are lots of journalists on social media in India who are pro the BCCI stance, which is their freedom to do it. But I definitely know that there are pressures from management and at senior editorial levels to not say the most obvious things that are there to be said. And your second question about the damage that's going to South Asia, when I was writing the column for the Hindustan Times yesterday, I said, okay, let me calculate the total population of all the countries that are playing. I included Bangladesh as well, that all the countries that would have played in this World Cup, and it came close to 2 billion, which is a quarter of the world's population. And you're thinking, you idiots, what have you done? What are you doing? Look at this, and so you're including Nepal, you're including Afghanistan, and then you've got India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and you're saying there are 6 countries with almost 2 billion people total. Okay, India is the largest, but Pakistan and Bangladesh are not small. I mean, Bangladesh's population is 100 million more than England, which is the next large cricketing country in the world. So it's almost like they don't understand how I'm assuming this for them. It's looking from the outside that there is no South Asian view as such of what South Asia and the power that South Asian cricket has as a whole, because India as the big brother in the subcontinent has now gone and sided with the other big sort of semi-big brothers in cricket, which is England and Australia, which is it's a financial transaction, and it's followed all this. So everyone around here, and the whole thing, so even players who I really respect, and they say that, look, we play more cricket in these other countries because of the fact that we are the ones that generate money. See, yeah, you're not doing in the world of fame, you're playing cricket. It just makes it better with the more countries playing cricket, more people playing cricket of a particular standard. If standards have fallen, how much of that is a fact because of this changed financial model that you put out? What had worked previously, and how much more money does the BCCI want to make, and what is it going to do with that money? Is it like it's the way I go back to my favorite pet topic, that for every 100 rupees the BCCI makes, players get 150, I think, international, and 1 rupee if you're a domestic player. So total between 3 and 4 rupees goes to players. So what happens to the rest of the money? But that's the kind of economy that it is. It's opaque. It's not, and that's cricket, as I mean, international cricket as well. As there's no leadership in the game anymore. That's why the whole thing, they should be looking at, they're saying, look, there's an Olympics coming. They should be looking at South Asia and saying, look at the size. This is a quarter of the world's population that's into this sport. Let's make sure that it looks like it's a sport that can spread easily. It's a fun sport. You can play it in Papua New Guinea, you can play it in Brazil. Women play it very well in Brazil. It's played in Thailand as well. It's played in parts of Africa that it had not been played previously. But you don't have a global view of the game. Never mind, you don't have a regional view of the game as well. I mean, if you're talking about South Asia, what's happening at the Asian Cricket Conference or Council or whatever that thing is called, when they had that absolute mess that was the Asia Cup? Also, pet topic, not a single press conference from the ICC about this. This is the biggest crisis in their game since, I'm trying to think of when, since England and Zimbabwe in 2003 World Cup. I can't think of what the other. Okay, match fixing. Sorry, forgot. But there's no no, it's not a press conference. What is this? Do you think your turn? I mean, what? I mean, I am out of words when I look at and I think that all the people that are running the game, like everyone's there's a phrase that was used. It comes from Winston Churchill, which is not the best example, but he called them men of straw. These men of straw are running cricket. It's literally like they're men of straw running the game, and they seem to have no global view of the game. As to what and more that global view of the game, that it goes beyond bottom line, and profits. And like Emma was talking about the financial sort of danger that's lurking. I don't know if there's a way to look and how do we make this work? How what do we have planned ahead? I mean, if you're putting out World Cup tickets like 10 days before the World Cup is starting, and that's the kind of way you've run it
Today.
consistently for the last 2 World Cups that you've organized. Oh, today, well done.
Today's tickets
So
were out today.
What are you? Yeah.
5 p.m. 5 p.m. There were
Amazing.
tickets available at 5 p.m.
But just to
Event organization nahi kar pate.
just to add to Sharda's points and quote Sharda from her caravan piece in 2023 is the fact that where does BCCI money go? So I must inform 70% of BCCI revenues go to state associations and vanish. So it's everybody's guess where it goes and who's leading the board and which party and all of that. And to Sharda's point about the ICC, I must inform Sharda, and I did that to our guests in the previous episode as well, is that ICC tournaments are built on sporting integrity, competitiveness, consistency, and fairness.
Please don't
इसके
get
बारे में क्या
AI
कहना
to write your press release, yaar. Come on. I'm going to get into so much trouble for this shit. Chat
Okay,
GPT press release.
Isam bhai, I have a question for you. How do people in Bangladesh are feeling about, like, of all teams, of all boards, Pakistan sort of standing with them and fighting for them?
New diplomatic
And yeah,
moves.
I mean, it takes a genius actually to bring Pakistan and Bangladesh together. So credit where it's due.
No.
And do you have any insights on what were the negotiations between BCB and ICC? Like, was bringing back Fizz maybe on the table at some point?
To answer the first part of your question, it's not at all surprise. Um, I was born in 1984, and my lifetime, I've only seen, unfortunately, Bangladesh is mostly either you are in India, either you're anti-India or anti-Pakistan. Now that the Awami League government is gone, I'm talking from a very generalized, a very political standpoint, or a very populist standpoint. That starting from cricket, you know, I hardly knew a lot of friends who supported Australia, West Indies. West Indies was fun in the 80s or 90s, but it was either in India or Pakistan. That's number one. Number two, now that the Awami League government is gone, and you should also keep in mind that during the Awami League government, they banned, they stopped the flight to Pakistan, exports were closed. It was very difficult to go to Pakistan from anyone from Bangladesh, and anyone traveling from Pakistan to Bangladesh was also a very complicated situation. So diplomatic relationships were at its lowest, I think, in the aftermath of the 1971 war, in these 13, 14 years. So the moment, Awami League left, those parties, political parties, or those with the, anti-India rhetoric in them, they actually welcomed the Pakistani wave to come back. I mean, I think I am the first person from Bangladesh, or the first non-cricketer from Bangladesh to travel to Pakistan. I think 10 days after the government changed. So when I reached Pakistan, I could sense that, there was a lot of joy in meeting me, not because I was Mohammad Isam, but mainly because I come from Bangladesh where, the government had changed, Sheikh Hasina had gone. And of course, even I feel that with that government gone, a lot of elements of the dictatorship were also gone with it. Whether they have come back or not, we'll discuss it in another forum. But um, for now, we'll talk about whether Bangladeshis are surprised. They're not surprised because, finally we had, some Pakistani bands like Rahat Fateh Ali Khan coming in for a mega concert. I attended that concert in December 2024. It was a celebration of this government returned. Is this interim government taking shape at that time, and generally, you could see a lot more involvement of the Pakistan High Commission here in Dhaka, which was, very different from how we grew up over the years. It was always a very polite diplomatic relationship until the Awami League government started to set in new rules for Pakistani nationals or Bangladeshi nationals traveling to Pakistan, or export and import and all these things. Even cricketing wise, I mean, I don't know whether you guys remember, but in 2013, I think after BCB didn't travel to Pakistan for a 2012 tour, Pakistan stopped players from coming to the BPL in 2013. That also happened. Now, after that, obviously, Pakistani players played in the BPL quite regularly. They're probably the biggest majority to play in the BPL. No surprises here. Uh, it was welcomed and it was always going to be on the cards. I don't know whether you guys have counted, but Bangladesh has played Pakistan a number of times in the last 12 months, a number of T20 series. So the diplomatic relationships have improved under this interim government, and they have welcomed Pakistan at every opportunity for helping out Bangladesh, especially when I think when recently Shahbaz Sharif, the Pakistan Prime Minister, made that statement that they've done it for Bangladesh, that they've boycotted this match for Bangladesh, and there was instant reaction from the government as well.
someone wrote on Facebook. I think the advisors wrote on Facebook that we welcome his statement. So that doesn't surprise anyone here. Sorry, second part of your question was the ICC and BCCI having any
Like, do you have,
discussions about, yeah.
yeah. I mean, what were
Um,
the negotiations like?
from what I can gather from all my sources in those 2 or 3 weeks now, that was not even the ICC. I mean, it's very difficult to differentiate between the ICC and what the ICC is saying, and whether it's I can even call it the ICC's diktat or whatever, but there was no way that they were going to even mention the word security, because in the BCCI statement, when they withdrew Mustafiz, they didn't use the word security, and they have not used it afterwards. And whenever the BCB had mentioned Mustafiz, it was dealt with a statement like it's a domestic tournament, the securities are different there, stuff like that. So no, I don't think there was ever any chance of them going back. In fact, on January the 6th or 7th, when we in ESPN Cricket for reported of the first discussion between the the ICC and BCB, even in that meeting, it was floated. And I mean, we have had a conflicted report on that because the BCB denied to me that it never happened. But the statement was, if you don't go to India, the points are going to be taken from you. We reported that, and we got heckled at every opportunity. The BCB president went after Cricinfo. Everyone went after Cricinfo. But ultimately, that's what we saw in the end, that you know points were not taken off, but that was the unilateral, or one single-minded effort to bring Bangladesh to India. Sri Lanka, apparently, we heard after that, I think January 24th meeting or 23rd, I don't remember the date, the board meeting that the ICC had, Sri Lanka actually said, we do not want any other team or any new team in our group, because there was this plan to shift around Ireland and Bangladesh, I think it's at one point. Um, so Bangladesh had absolutely no friends. Even Bangladesh's best friends, Zimbabwe, didn't vote for Bangladesh. So, the BCP felt hard done by. I mean, no one stood by except Pakistan. So you can imagine that Pakistan's decision not to play against India till today is being welcomed in Bangladesh.
If I could add something to that regarding the negotiations, because as
Yeah.
Isam pointed out, like even if he's done some excellent reporting on the story, but if you just go with like the official press release, the language that the ICC uses when it rejects Bangladesh's requests versus the language it uses when Pakistan's government announces its boycott, there's a huge difference between the two, right? You straight away see how they're approaching, even though it's the same issue, but they approach it completely differently. What I'm saying next is unverified. This is not something that's been reported. This is stuff that I've heard. It could very well be baseless, but um, because our chairman is also the interior minister, he was in Dubai. The ICC allegedly sent a director. His name is Imran Khwaja, and he was there with a list of supposed threats. We can guess what those threats were because Indian media had started publishing those stories almost immediately afterwards. So you can, put two and two together. And reportedly, what the interior minister said to Imran Khwaja is like, after what we've done in May, do you think we really care about what you're going to do now? And whether that's true or not, I think it could be true because what's happening over here is that it's not like the PCB just woke up and realized India is being unfair to us, but every previous PCB chairman just did not have the sort of leverage where he could kind of launch a diplomatic battle with India, right? Like if you Zaka Ashraf, who was like this surprising that he was in the PCB chairman. He was famous for being a sugar mill owner, but you saw in the 2023 Asia Cup how easily the BCCI was just able to get away with extra rest day चाहिए हमें और यहाँ नहीं खेलेंगे वहाँ करेंगे वगैरह वगैरह. Even the likes of Najam Sethi or Ramiz Raja, who've been in those top position, like they've not had any interest in taking on the BCCI this way. But Mohsen Naqvi, A, is obviously the interior minister in the aftermath of a war, and B, doesn't really know or care about the intricacies of cricket, right? So, like, if he makes this decision, his calculus really involves the state rather than the future of the Pakistan cricket team. And I think that leverage, has been very difficult for the cricketing world to kind of move around. Because prior to that, BCCI/ICC, as Isam said, it's hard to tell who is speaking for whom, but they just had to kind of be like, hey, we're going to cut you out from this tour. We're going to cut you out from this tournament. And every other board was like, sorry, we're not going to say anything. Pakistan obviously has had 20 years of being, ostracized one way or another. But even with that, I think it's safe to say that any other PCB chairman would not have been so bold, or no, I don't want to make it bold and praise it. It's quite brash. It's quite, like, it's not really well thought through. Like, a lot of people are like, what is the big game that, yaar, agar koi planning ke saath kar raha hai, Mohsin Naqvi, ye, wo. But it's like, kya planning ke saath karenge? What route is there other than, either Pakistan's economy growing by 100x over the next few months, or the rest of the global economy falling completely. Like, there's no other plan that Mohsin Naqvi can pursue other than this leverage that they've managed. Like, I think the analogy here is basically the emperor's new clothes, right? Like, Mohsin Naqvi of all people are like, Abhi ICC to nanga ghum raha hai. And no one else is like, they're like, no, what do you say? How can they say that? Like, Gideon Haig is like, oh, this critic's views are irrelevant. What a fine gossamer silk the sport is paying. It's of course not naked. But that's what Mohsin Naqvi is basically done, कि भाई ये तो नंगा खड़ा है, क्या बात कर रहे हो तुम लोग? और वो उसके बाद से जो है गहमा गहमी फैल गई है. एंड आई थिंक इज द ओनली गाय कुड हैव गॉटन अवे विद दैट, बिकॉज कल को अगर पाकिस्तान क्रिकेट को निकाल भी रहे हैं, लाइक इट्स नॉट मोहसिन नकवी's प्रॉब्लम.
I mean, he's a
Again,
career
I just wanted
politician.
to, sorry, Sharda, just wanted to add something very similar that has, the context is almost similar to the interim government that Bangladesh is here, Ahmed Bhai. It's basically, and Sharda, I mean, we should also uh, hear this out. It's basically, this government is here for another 4 or 5 days, maximum a week. So when they took that decision, uh, none of their business. I mean, if they left Bangladesh cricket with zero, and I should also add another point. It's not a speculation. Um, it's what has happened. Cricket was Awami League's crowning glory. I know it's a shit thing to say, but there's not much happening in Bangladesh apart from cricket that the Awami League government put on top of their head, and they control that cricket board through Mr. Nazmul Hassan, famously who ran the cricket board with his iron fist. And when that government left, the BCB became orphans almost instantly. Like, I don't know whether you guys followed the news at that time. 14 board directors literally escaped the country. Escaped the country. Many of them were MPs or brothers of MPs and whatnot. I mean, they were related to MPs or related to the prime minister at that time. So BCB had 10 board directors running the show. The interim government saw this cricket board as a Awami League machinery, as an Awami League tool or a propaganda tool that they wanted to destroy. And back in 2025, late 2025, there was some football match where the same sports advisor, he said that cricket's importance to Bangladesh is because of another country's hegemony. He meant India. We have to cut that out. He said it. Then 2, 3 other things happened. Some optics went wrong for the interim government, and then the Mustafiz thing happened. So it didn't as Ahmer Bhai kept saying those things. It played out in my mind that yeah, it's the same thing happening here. It doesn't matter to anyone whether cricket suffers, cricketers suffer. Say, forget about the game. Bangladesh is not going to contribute greatly to the game itself, but we have thousands of professional cricketers who are suffering because there's no cricket league, because there's a huge political problem here in the cricket board. On top of that, you're not playing the World Cup. And the worst part is the person who's in charge of this is Aminul Islam, the guy who scored a century in Bangladesh's inaugural test match, celebrated former cricketer who worked for the ICC, who boasts himself that he knows how to do presentations and he knows how to do Canva and PPT. He's the one who's presided over a BCB, which doesn't have a running league. And Sharda knows about the league. I've spoken to her for hours about the Dhaka League and how special it is and how I played in it and stuff like that. It's like the English Premier League in Bangladesh. It's like 4 tier. It's everything. They've stopped that. He couldn't solve that. he couldn't solve this one. And there are many points that I've had. As I just explained to you, the Indian government just took a decision. It was the cricket board who should have stepped in with some diplomacy or some sort of language that they could have limited this damage for Bangladesh. Because, of course, don't play the World Cup, no problem, but have some steps going. It was just straight away, like it was in a game of cards. Bangladesh just gave back the cards and said, "We're not playing the game." They had a few trump cards up their sleeve. I mean, of course, Aminul Islam um, uh, had Mohsin Naqvi's support since the ACC meeting in Bangladesh when India didn't appear. But then Rajiv Shukla, I think, joined on a video call. He was forced to join because all the other boards, were joining up. So, I mean, he had Mohsin Naqvi's support, and I think they understood Mohsin Naqvi's uh, theater, I might add. I mean, he just is quite blustery, and he knows how to say those things. And Amir Bhai, honestly, if you compare the two reactions, how Bangladesh reacted to Mustafiz and how Pakistan reacted to Bangladesh's ouster, I think Pakistan's was managed slightly better, and I think they still had some things up their sleeves. They knew that India needed this game or ICC needed this game more than maybe how Bangladesh reacted to whatever happened. So it was like the perfect storm. I'm just describing the Bangladesh part of it. Yeah.
Do you want to come in, Sharda?
No, that's too brilliant. I mean, this has explained things so beautifully. We should all just keep quiet and keep talking, both of you. So it doesn't explain itself fantastically. No, that's true. And it's in a way because Mohsin Naqvi is a career politician, and it becomes like Sannu ki, I've just done it and I've gone. How they say in Punjabi, mere ko kya hota hai, Sannu ki. He just said it, and it's out there. And the story that you're saying that the threats were sent to him, I'm just like, what? Whose idea was it? Who said, or allegedly, or reportedly, or suspectedly? Whose idea could have been to send um, the Imran Khwaja? Na? Did you say what is it? Huh? To give threats to the Home Minister of Pakistan. I mean, to a career politician. I mean, just make a phone call and say, boss, don't go there. Basically, whatever you do, let someone else do it. Huh?
Sharda, there's just one thing. He's not even a career politician. He's a career journalist who who basically was like a head of a TV channel or something. And he has an interesting journalism story with not a lot of journalism achievements. But yeah, that's how he jumped onto it. I think he became PCB chairman first and then the interior minister. I apologize for not knowing the details, but yeah, he's one of us basically.
Like Rajiv Shukla is also a journalist. Began as a journalist. Don't forget.
I think Rajiv
Journalism
Shukla
began with Rajiv Shukla.
there's that great line ना कि राजीव शुक्ला क्या है राजीव शुक्ला टमाटर है सलाद में भी और
Yes.
सालन में भी है like that's the greatest line ever.
Kirti Azad.
That's the intro to the podcast.
Yeah.
Guess where was this written? Sharda, would you know?
So in the caravan story, and I asked Kirti Azad, I said, Kirti, can I publish? Of course.
It's the greatest.
Huh?
It's the greatest.
Yeah.
I think it's clear that these are not champion negotiators that are speaking
I
on
mean,
behalf
why
of the
would you
ICC and
send
PCB.
somebody when you've seen what has happened? Why would you send someone with a list of threats? Whose idea is this list of threats? Yeah.
I mean, even with Bangladesh, right? Like it's really clear that the guy who's at the head of ICC, his father has said horrible things about Bangladeshi migrants and immigrants over the years since 2018, since even with the previous government that had really close ties to Bangladesh, that was always going to come and haunt them. And same with Pakistan, like why would you go and send threats? Like you would, considering the press release had such a conciliatory tone, like it's just so much cognitive dissonance there to see what they're actually doing and how they're talking in public and trying to, go ahead, Emma.
I just want to also like threats, I guess, is the word I used. I as I said, this is not super verified. Yeah, maybe they yes, or they just said कि मोहसिन भाई देख लें क्या होगा सोच लें, so I don't know how it came about, but what we can
we'll
Yeah,
downgrade threats to
suggestions,
suggestions and
requests.
Suggestions.
possibilities
Strong
and
Polite
suggestions.
reminders.
Yeah,
like
and I
polite
think,
reminders.
but what we're all calling out is the fact that, given where the situation had gone and given how the ICC slash BCCI had been used to getting its way across, I think because of that, everyone was really caught out. Like as I said, like I don't want to paint Mohsin Naqvi as some Machiavelli or something. As I said, like he had a pretty zero F's approach. So he's just like, fine, let's do it this way. But that ended up calling out just the bizarre bullying, power imbalance that has been existing in cricket, right? And the easiest comparison is, as Isam documented so well, is how they reacted to Bangladesh's requests and then, had to kind of switch their tone when Pakistan came to it. And I think that's where I'm going to come back to early 90s Shah Rukh. If you remember Dar, like Sunny Deol is dating Juhi, and they have no idea how to deal with Shah Rukh, right? Like they're just like, what? Like, like how do you deal with that? Like, I think that's where Pakistan cricket is right now. Like, it's the end.
Everyone's fallen off their very
Yeah,
chest. No, so you
it's
know what
it's
Isam said is quite interesting about the Pakistan-Bangladesh sort of relationship and how they're not diplomatic and social, cultural, whatever, and how he's not surprised by, it's always been improving and so on. So Suhasini Haider put out this great tweet when this whole thing started to build around Mustafizur, and I'll just read it out. I've quoted that in the a piece I did for Deccan Herald, which is a more measured response to what has been happening and explaining sports and political sort of entanglement. So Suhasini Haider is diplomatic editor of the Hindu, a supremely well-informed strategic affairs, foreign policy expert, and so on. So she says in her tweet, she says, with neighbor, this is January the 3rd. With neighbor after neighbor, the government allows social media campaigns to overpower its diplomacy and destroy Indian soft power. External Affairs Minister Jaishankar can visit Dhaka, PM Modi can meet Bangladesh leaders, but a cricketer can't play in an Indian team. So that's what it came in response to the news about Mustafizur. And it's this whole thing, that social media campaigns are overpowering. I mean, they are dominating cricket governance in many ways. I mean, in India for sure, and in and from there to the ICC as well. It's sort of the social media buildup that seems to be running everything.
I think there's one more thing that I said this to somebody else as well. And that's something that I've, as an outsider, has surprised me. Which is the fact that, like, again, both in Pakistan, there have been movements of basically religious fascism, like people with very hardliner views that have based it on some kind of faith-based ideology. You saw that in neighboring Afghanistan, other parts of the world as well. So it's something I would say I've grown up with. And so with the BJP and having a certain Hindutva worldview, very ideological party, if you'd asked me 10 years ago where cricket would be heading, I would have imagined that the BCCI or the BJP, sorry, I'm using them interchangeably. I shouldn't.
Same thing.
The
Same
You're not
difference.
wrong.
Yeah.
the BJP, India controlling world cricket, I would have imagined that they would have used it as a way of projecting Indian soft power, right? So, like, if there's 30 different countries playing cricket and India sending money to all of them, that straight away is giving you access to some level of soft power, some level of diplomatic leverage or leeway. And we see that with Saudi Arabia, right? Like, they don't even have their own teams in most of the things that they're spending money on, whether it's golf or football. Okay, football mein they hai, but like, other sports that they've been involved, throwing crazy amounts of money.
Boxing.
Yeah, right. And there's no Saudi even players in it. And still, it's so invaluable for projecting their soft power, projecting who they are. And again, like the MBS was just as much as a, kind of global pariah as Narendra Modi was at one point. And they literally use sports to kind of turn that around. It's kind of, I mean, this is me just shutting off my political and moral side. But as a cricket fan, I would have really hoped that the BJP would have used that to really spread Indian cricket, and maybe they not just Indian cricket, international cricket, and maybe they could have banned Pakistani players or whatever, and I would have had issues with that. But at least the sport would have grown. Like, what really shocks me is this desire to keep shrinking the sport, because it shrinks Indian soft power. I think it's a really one-to-one kind of relationship there. And B, that, which I hate to be agreeing with Arnab Goswami, but he's been going on like, why do they keep playing? Why don't they boycott? Why don't they boycott? And I also wonder, like, ideologically, you should boycott Pakistan. Like,
Yes.
the Taliban has made unpopular decisions because that's what their ideology states. Lots of people make unpopular ideological decisions, but you keep playing Pakistan, and it's not like you love Pakistan. You're not going to shake hands. You're going to celebrate with a fake trophy and whatever. So that sort of disappointed by the lack of ideological adherence that the BJP has shown, because both from, either you could have gone the Arnab way and just boycott everything, blah, 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 or you could have gone the Saudi way and used this to project your power, even if it goes against your core ideology. The fact that they've done nothing, the fact that they've been so unambitious, that to me, honestly, like, 2016 Ahmer could not have predicted that at all. And that's been kind of, again, from a human rights perspective, I'm glad. But just from like predicting the future, I'm surprised the future ended up here.
I think this handshaking thing, but not completely boycotting to play Pakistan, but doing all these shenanigans is by design to some extent. Because first of all, they
Of
are
course, it
probably
is. Yeah,
confident,
of course.
yeah, that they probably know that they're going to beat Pakistan. And once India wins, then their supporters go rampant online and everywhere, which helps them, or they think it helps them. I don't know.
Plus, theatrics always
I
works, na, here. You
But
like it's
I think there's also sorry, I'm cutting both of you. I'm just surprised because it could have just been easier कि हम देखो हमने पाकिस्तान को निकाल दिया और कैसे भीख मांग रहे हैं और उनकी क्रिकेट तबाह हो गई है.
You
There's
can't
a lot
reuse
of
that now. You can't repurpose that again and
fair
again
You
to
can't
enough.
just
reuse it.
boycott them.
Yeah. You play that card once and it's over. And I think one of the things we want to talk about is the right-wing project in India and its impact over cricket and everything else. Even basic things like the perception that people have of Pakistan. Like even in a propaganda movie like Dhurandhar clearly is, right? They show that there are really nice roads in Pakistan and people are riding their bikes at full speed. And like there's definitely people in India who are like, yeah, itni achhi roads hain Pakistan mein. Like they're just shocked at this. Like how do you how do you at the same time say that this country is a huge threat and we're not going to let them play with us, and then on top of that they're like constantly on top of your minds every day, you have to defeat them in some way or the other. Like how does
I
that
can
how does that
I
yeah
just want to bring up something about Dhurandhar as well, because I find it such a amazing thing to unpack, because
So
we
I
obviously know what the content. No, I haven't seen it, but I obviously know what it's about. It's about this really important story from my city. Um, and you all know that, like there's that one song where the big bad is kind of walking in and there's slow motion and etc etc, and so theoretically that's an anti-Pakistan movie, and that song is about that anti-Pakistan villain. But obviously it was a good song, it was a banger, it became so popular. And I mean, last week there was some domestic tournament that what's his name, Iftikhar Ahmed's team won, and they, to celebrate, they set the trophy right in front, and then Iftikhar does the Dhurandhar walk, and then he goes and
Oh
picks
my
up
God,
the
this is
trophy.
good.
इसका वीडियो किधर है?
Brilliant.
Yeah,
I
it is.
want video.
I'll send it to you. It is. I saw it on a video. And it just like blew my mind, because it was like, this is the, biggest anti-Pakistan kind of thing, but it is also a banger. And
It is
clearly,
Ifti Mania is
yeah,
going to go.
Is it the one that's it's that the famous
the
Qawwali?
Arab,
Is it that one?
there's like
It
Arabic
is
kind of
Nato
lyrics
Karma
in
ki
it.
talash hai. It is
Ah,
that.
Natu Kara Ki Tarah. Okay,
No,
okay, okay.
no, I
That.
think it's
No,
the Omani track, the Thus Thus.
Okay.
yes, it's that song.
Hmm.
That
Oh,
song's
okay.
a huge hit in Pakistan. People are doing their
What
wedding
is it
entries
called?
on it.
It's called
Uh,
Fasla. I think it's called
Okay, okay,
Fasla.
okay.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Fasla.
things you learn on this show, superb. Thank you.
And so yeah, they're like, I mean, we in this all of this Pakistan India cricket drama, the fact that domestic cricket trophy in Pakistan is being lifted to the soundtrack of this anti-Pakistan song. I think that's just it captures South Asia so perfectly. Now
No, the other one, the other that's a great example, Emma, that you given. The other one to me was, this handshake is going on, not shaking, not shaking, not. So same under 19 World Cup, no handshakes happened before the match and all. After the match, they shook hands. People are noting. The players shook hands after the match, and they continued doing what they were doing. But this was, I don't know if I've said this before, they had a Women's World Cup for the blind in Sri Lanka, right? And in that match, the Indian blind women's team and the Pakistani blind women's team, they just shook hands. It was no big deal. It was like they're telling you, you idiots, can you not see everything that's going on? We are the ones who are supposedly are not supposed to see. I mean, to me, that I never forgot that. I never forgot that image. I never forgot that story. I said, in the middle of all this madness, there's some people who've got sense and said, this is it. This is in our little universe. We shake hands.
Yeah, it's I can't even think about like what sort of fine line you have to walk to not shake hands or and still play and say bad things about them every day and still play and I don't get it.
Yeah.
But just to see like take a take a long-term view of this, right? Shada, is there any appetite for putting the genie back in the bottle for Jai Shah? Like, are there any concessions that they can make to both Pakistan and Bangladesh? Or are just the ghosts of their past deeds coming back to haunt them like Lady Macbeth? Like, is that
Now we have Shakespeare as well. Excellent. So, no, I mean, I'm just wondering where this goes and how this goes, because if you are going to play in the Los Angeles Olympics, if you're going to be a world sport, what does this look like? I know that Sushant had some terrific observations, Sushant Singh, that he made on the podcast about the fact that people are going around the smaller countries of, I'm not taking names because I've already got into enough nonsense by doing that. That smaller countries are being visited and by ICC officials, and there are being certain conversations, as assume, are happening about supporting India's bid for the 2036 Olympics, which sounds a bit absolutely OTT, but anyway. So I mean, it's not that I don't believe it. You're just wondering how you're going to dial down and dial back on this, and where are you going to go from here? Because this is absolutely it's an utter dumpster fire that you have started, right? You have set this in motion, and what happens now when the monies are going to be sought after, when those deals are going to go out? What kind of conversations can you have about this? What about so the other story, what if India and Pakistan make the finals? Or of course the Pakistan is going to play. Then they said we are not going for that match on the 15th, we will not play. But how does this thing? I can't figure out how they're going to solve this, because it will mean somebody standing down, somebody backing off, and how do you back off when social media campaigns seem to be the way that you are running the sport? You are running the sport on social media. You are not being able to send out no, you did send out that strange press release. And I don't know whether this happened around the time of Bangladesh, that reporters got this message saying that this is from ICC, but you cannot quote us with the Bangladesh situation. WhatsApp messages went out.
Really?
Yes.
I don't know. But I mean, often we get this. ICC sometimes I think that's how they sometimes communicate with any reporter.
Yeah, but that's not a reporter, one reporter, not with a whole bunch on a WhatsApp group, no?
No. No, I haven't heard that one, but I don't know whether you guys know, but they approved some journalists of their accreditation, then they rejected it. I don't know where it stands right now, but they rejected about 150 journalists from covering the World Cup, and then I think
150
yeah,
rejected.
Sharda, 150 usually apply from Bangladesh, so yeah, all of them were rejected. All of them were rejected, and then I think through another mediatory, they sent a message that, okay, let us know if you really want to come. We'll try to get you accreditation
We
and
were
stuff. I
joking,
don't
right?
know.
We were doing time pass. We just was trying to see if you
Yeah,
really listen.
I don't know whether anyone called back or anything, but
Did
there
we
was
go? Did
news
anyone go
every
from
week.
Bangladesh? Has
Not
anyone
that
gone?
I've spotted yet, because I don't think they'll get the visa as well. So it's very difficult to get a visa now from Bangladesh, apart from
Okay.
medical visa. Yeah.
Okay. So you're looking at this and say, are you trying to increase the game or trying to shrink the game? And
Yeah,
okay,
obviously.
everyone only.
Sharda,
Do you want
I
to?
always found it funny that when Bangladesh became a test playing nation, they said we are spreading the game. Spreading it, spreading the game would have been taking it to the Latin countries and all, but even to
Yeah, yeah.
Europe.
Listen, but
Cricket
hello,
is,
this
yeah,
is now
it's a club.
2000. Okay, in 2000, I'll tell you, all the countries who are not of the same color as we are, uh, all of us in this group, had a problem with getting Bangladesh in for whatever reason. Right. So let's not think that that was a small thing that happened. I'm not saying that
No,
Jagmohan
no,
Dalmia, who
of
pushed
course
and
not.
pushed and pushed, was a
Yeah,
saint.
yeah,
But he pushed, and I mean, you got more people on rather than less. No, you
yeah,
got more
yeah.
people. You got like immediately you got 150 million people at that time, whatever the population of Bangladesh was. You got more that many people more into sort of the scheme of things. What's the point of them playing in that? What was it called? The tournament that it was called the one that
Mini World Cup,
ICC. No, no,
Mini
not the
World
Mini
Cup,
World Cup.
ICC,
The one that they had that they had to
ICC
win
Trophy, ICC
ICC trophy.
Trophy.
Correct, correct,
the
correct.
qualifiers, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So that's not the only thing. So, of course, you want to go to Latin America. Nobody's saying no, but like right here, like Nepal. Now, at the point in this point in time, it's Nepal. Why will you not want to make the
of
game grow?
course.
That you're supposed to. You're trying to do it. So it's fine. But imagine if Bangladesh would not have got full membership, you would still be hanging in one limbo. Anyway, they got full membership and they've been treated like this.
And the knockout is actually another great example. When it was started,
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
spoken about as we're taking cricket to these. It's a smaller version of the World Cup. We're taking it to these
yeah,
new countries. So the first
yeah.
version was in Dhaka, second was in Nairobi,
Nairobi. Yeah, yeah.
third came to Sri Lanka, and from there it's been South Africa, India, England again
And it was
to the
straight
major
knockout. No,
countries.
it's just it was done within 10 days.
And that was such a great format.
Yeah, yeah,
Just
simple.
pure jeopardy. Everyone plays everyone. You
Yeah,
one match
yeah,
in and out.
I
yeah,
think
correct,
this
correct.
is it's also important here. We're talking, there's a lot of people here from India who've been very open about calling out the BCCI, um, and very rightfully so. But let's be very clear, even the worst BCCI administration has shown more interest in quote unquote spreading the game than England and Australia.
Correct,
And there's
correct.
no
100%.
interest in those cricketing fraternities to
Yeah,
expand the
yeah,
game. There's zero interest. And I think I wanted, like, it's just, this is a pet peeve of mine anyways, but it was like a few days ago, The Guardian did this story before Pakistan's boycott. So there were other things happening in world cricket. And they do this story about like uh, Australia find hope for next Ashes. And I was like, okay, the Ashes just ended yesterday. So what the hell is the story? The story is about the captain of the Australian under 19 World Cup team, who's at that point was in the semi final. And they shoehorned this into this under 19 kid who's probably maybe part of Australia's test team 18 months from now, maybe won't be. But that's the kind of, कि एशेस के अलावा तो क्रिकेट खेलते भी नहीं है कोई, पता नहीं कौन खेल रहा है कौन नहीं खेल रहा है, तो उनकी कोई दिलचस्पी शुरू दिन से नहीं रही है to expand the sport at all. So even when it's happened, and I think particularly millennials, bit older, bit younger, we've had the fortune or misfortune of growing up at a time where the Asian bloc was an active thing and was actively trying to
Correct.
shift the global power away, right? So we still have these conceptions of how the game should be more equal because we have kind of experienced that intent playing
Yeah,
out in our lifetimes.
yeah,
There is
yeah.
no interest in making cricket a global sport. There has never been any interest in making cricket a global sport, particularly under the imperial setup. And then, over the last 10, 15 years, with just a focus on, the big three, etc., we've shrunk again. But I think it was the anomaly in the intervening 20, 30 years where you saw this desire to move the game's power center away. And even if something happens right now, like maybe the Hindutva government goes out of power, maybe there is, to me, like, I think that next renegotiation with GeoStar for the ICC rights, that's going to have a huge, huge impact. Whether people have certain ideologies or what right now, they'll have to deal with a very different reality then. But one thing I can say for sure is that nothing's going to come from India and Australia, England and Australia. Like they've really betrayed their lack of understanding of the global sport. Forget what kind of opinions they have. They literally don't even know what they're talking about. So that, I think, myopia, that kind of bias even the worst bigoted Indian administrators are not as clueless as what England and Australia have repeatedly done in world cricket. So, when we're thinking about the future will also come from South Asia, good or bad. There's definitely nothing happening from those two areas.
No,
I'm so
well
glad
said
you
in that
called it
sense.
out. Yeah.
Go ahead, Sarthak.
No, I was just like when Amar was saying, I was also thinking like Australia don't host Bangladesh. Australia refused to play Pakistan. England last year hosted Zimbabwe after the first time after 2003. These countries barely play Sri Lanka until 1998 when Murli took, I think, 9 wickets at the Oval. England used to give Sri Lanka one test every tour. Come play one test, leave. So it's, and BCCI for better or worse have done their bit for Afghanistan cricket, this and that. So I think it's spot on that if the future of the cricket is in jeopardy, ECB and CA have a massive role to play in just completely siphoning all their attention to the money spinners and not even acknowledging the rest, because the way Australia treated their Afghanistan tour, they weren't taking a principled stance. They were taking a very, what's the point? I mean, Afghanistan tour isn't going to generate money, generate crowds. Fuck it. So, yeah, I'm very glad, Amor, you called it out. Sharda, please go ahead.
Exactly, I'm in agreement with what you're saying is because of and so what makes me really even more frustrated, because I've seen that past where there was Asian bloc stood for something and it pissed off everybody, all the old powers, is that you're behaving in the same way as the old powers have behaved, right? India is the leader of this Asian bloc, former Asian bloc, is behaving in the same way as the old powers behave. That it's all about us, it's all about our IPL, it's all about this thing that we made. I mean, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, all these other countries, Afghanistan as well, Nepal as well. They've changed the way, they've changed the grammar, the vocabulary, the DNA of cricket, how it's played, how it's interpreted, what it stands for. And still, there is no imagination to see what this means in the world. I mean, the Asia Cup should be the most well publicized and marketed and whatever tournament, uh, uh, and not this playground for no handshakes and all kinds of gestures of send-offs and whatever. And it's just so frustrating. You're looking at it and say, can you not see what you are giving to the sport, and what are you making of it in this form? And I'm hearing 94 match IPLs and thinking, oh my God, this is what it's about. So anyway.
More matches of what is that caption they put? Rishabh Panti. I'm not even making this up. I wish I was. I wish I was. It came
Who
out
said
as an
this?
ad today. It came as an ad today. More Rishabh Panti, King Kohli, legends wasn't some shit that's put, and Rishabh Pant does the backflip, and that is the caption they had.
I don't know why you're critiquing this, dude. That's that's so good, Rishabh Panti.
Because I think there is another phrase along with it that goes, which is probably not as polite, which is possibly what's coming in
No,
Sarthak's head.
I know, and I feel it's such a great way of capturing Rishabh Panti.
सबको आती नहीं उसकी जाती नहीं.
Are you talking about Rishabh Pant
So,
or BCCI?
I was talking about the Tiger Shroff movie. Anyway, no.
Hero Banti.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Richa,
So, Emma, you do such a lovely job with Butta Fast, and it's a beautiful and lyrical podcast. I love it. What do you think is the historical or literary parallel to this situation? Are we more in Lord of the Flies, or is it more like Deepwater Horizon, where it's a huge spill and it takes ages to come back?
Wait, what is
Like,
Deepwater Horizon? I've never seen that.
It's
That's
it's a massive massive oil spill that was done by British Petroleum
oh,
about
I thought कोई movie
15.
है.
हाँ
I
उसी पे
was-
थी उसी
Movie
पे
भी
थी
है.
movie.
okay, okay,
movie
okay,
उसी पे
okay.
थी.
I should
Yeah,
see the
I think
show.
Mark Wahlberg was in it. Yeah.
I am sorry, guys. I was talking about Pakistan as Shah Rukh from Dar. That's the kind of thinking that I'm going towards. I think Lord of the Flies definitely not. We've had this situation where the straightest quo has been upset for the first time in like a decade and a half, and I think a lot of the reaction is really about the fact that someone dared to do that. Like if you look at the bottom line is not really changing much. The three richest boards are going to remain the three richest boards. The amount of money in the game, we've passed the peak. So that money is going to shrink in all these other kind of situations. So I said like I feel that's why Shah Rukh and Dar is a good example, because that's the only route over here, right? Where you're so crazy, like as there's a infamous saying that Pakistan in Pakistan diplomacy, that it's a country, it's a madman with a gun to its head, telling others to pay me, otherwise I'll shoot myself. Like that kind of maverickness to Pakistan's diplomacy, you can kind of see that over here as well. Like this isn't something that they've got like, oh, we're picking a fight with India because we've invested in our infrastructure for cricket or this or that, or we're going to make more money. There's none of that happening, right? So that's why like I'm sticking with Shah Rukh from Dar, or some, Joaquin from Joker or something like that. Like I think those are the
Joker.
only
Yeah.
those kind of problematic villains that you have a soft spot for. I think that's that's where you
The
find
sad boys.
yeah, that's like it's like the anaconda from the movie Anaconda. Like, end mein marna hai use, but it's gonna take some people down with it.
Oh my God.
Okay, I had one question about the CWG that is happening in 2013 at the home of cricket, and the possible Olympics that they want to host also at the home of cricket in 2036. What are they going to do? Because if they are now antagonizing the entire uh, Asian bloc, they're antagonizing all their neighbors. They are alienating their friends. How do they manage? Forget the 2036. How do they manage 2030 Commonwealth Games? Are they suddenly going to go like, actually, you know what? This show has gone long enough. Why don't you come over? How do you approach that? Because the moment you're saying Commonwealth Games, you have to open your doors to pretty much everybody in the Commonwealth. Same for the Olympics. So you can't, like, can you say that we won't allow people into our country from certain countries, but also bid to host the Olympics?
I think there is a way to doing that, and Saudi Arabia and to a lesser extent Qatar have already shown you that way. If you throw enough money at it, no one cares about whatever problems you've been causing, right? And like Qatar still had a slower transformation. Saudi Arabia went from like the Khashoggi case to hosting all of sports in like literally weeks, if not, like it was. So if you have enough money, I think these kind of Utpatang issues won't happen. I think something that many Indians have also pointed out is that the BJP, within Islam itself, right from the beginning of Islam, there's been Arab Muslims versus the other Muslims, and there was always the kind of tension between that. The BJP also is down with that. Like they love the Gulf Muslims. It's just South Asian Muslims they don't want to be down with. So I could totally foresee that path that these Gulf states took to hosting events, which was basically throwing insane amounts of money at whoever was involved. And it's not like that, Saudi or Qatar made reproachments with other countries that they've had fights with. So I don't necessarily think that's something that the BJP needs to do. The question, of course, comes to who's going to be fronting all that money. Like I think Saudi money is still very different from like India's ability to spend money, and whether there is that appetite for diplomatic building, because again, like because India is just at least in the world of cricket has only operated in full badmashi. That approach obviously will be hard to do in other places. So I think if there's there is they've shown they haven't shown any great diplomacy so far. But as I said, like it's really money. If they have enough money, you don't need to be diplomatic either.
We have that
Guess
kind of
who's
money.
leading the charge for the Olympics from India? शादी हुई थी एक दो साल पहले, पता नहीं लोगों को याद
अभी
होगा।
खत्म हो गई है कि हो चल रही है अभी भी?
नहीं, वो
नहीं,
चल
शादी
रही
अभी भी चल रही है. That
शादी
शादी is
चल
called the
रही
IPL.
शादी चल रही है।
That function is called the IPL. But she was at the Paris Olympics. So one day in the Paris Olympics, she literally asked all the athletes to come over to the India House and do photo ops.
Yeah.
नहीं तो
And these athletes
इसमें क्या प्रॉब्लम है? It's
actually
the
सही
same
बात है.
argument, right? BCCI brings 80% of revenue to ICC, bro.
सही बात
It's the same argument. If Neeta Ambani brings so much money to the IOC, bro, then why can't she take pictures, bro?
I feel bad for Mondo Duplantis. वो हर रोज एक वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड तोड़ता है अपना. He gets up, brushes his teeth. He's like, okay, 6.3 I've reached. Should I do
दोस्त
6.35 or 6.33? And then Nita
दोस्त
texts her, ki, hello, photo please.
दोस्त दोस्त लायनल मेसी और कुछ
Yes.
कहना है?
Yeah, seriously.
I have actually seen him play live. And it's in my city that he came. And like, legit, my family is like, hey, are you coming? I was like, no.
भाई ये
And
फ्लेक्स
then I
नहीं
saw
है.
it happening. I was like, thank you.
भाई ये फ्लेक्स नहीं है. उसने उसको अपने पर्सनल जू में बुलाया. वो फ्लेक्स है.
आरती उतार रहा था
Do
ना
you think
मेसी
they
when he was
do you,
here.
and do you think they fed him the same khichdi that they fed that
Rahul Kanwal.
reporter?
Rahul,
Haan.
Rahul
You have known
Kamal.
They
about the
didn't feed
khichdi. No,
him.
Ahmed, do
They
you know
didn't
about the
feed him.
khichdi?
He asked,
Okay.
can I taste it?
And वो हाथी लोगों को खिला रहे थे खिचड़ी. And Rahul Kanwal is like, actually, you know, when I go to people's houses and they have really cute dogs, I also have pedigree sometimes. So he's like, can I have this khichdi?
My God.
Richa, take it away. Sorry.
So we'll go to you, Isam bhai. What do you see
Yeah.
is what is your wish list for world cricket? If you could have one.
Wish list for world cricket. I
Yeah.
mean, the only wish in my list would be, let it be world cricket. That's all. As simple as that.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
I know.
just to reiterate, I mean, what has happened to Bangladesh this time is extremely unfair. I mean, uh, our most famous sports writer, Sharda knows him very well, Shubra, I think he wrote recently that it has been 30 years since Bangladesh has sat at home and seen a World Cup. So they haven't really missed a lot of World Cups. They don't really, I mean, they've really worked hard for it. From 79 to 97, they've played all these ICC trophy tournaments. There was lots of heartbreaks, and they finally made it in 97. I mean, they were the story. I mean, whatever happened afterwards with the test status and how they played in test cricket, that's a different angle. But I think from a participation point of view, the way they were treated, I think it was, you know, unnatural. So Amir Bhai mentioned a couple of times how the two approaches were different from the ICC, and I mean, you're talking about the wish list. Let this be a global game, and let the ICC have a backbone for a change. I mean, I don't know how different it is. How different is the ICC's constitution from FIFA? I'm sure it's very different. But the way FIFA deals with things, and I've seen it with the Bangladesh Football Federation on a number of occasions, you know, FIFA deals with these small federations with a lot of fairness, I would say. I mean, if there is if something goes wrong, they step in, and if money is required, they pour the money too. So, I wish it's a global game. I wish that this global game is also run with some amount of, equality.
Yeah. Oh, well said. I'm going to take this to you, Sharda, as well. What is your wish list for world cricket? Because it's often like it needs a lot of work for conservation, quite like the giant panda. They're determined if you if you don't take care of them, they will become an endangered species, and they're quite close to it. So
Giant panda. No, I mean, I had written a column for Hindustan Times about sort of my happy headlines for the rest of the year because we've had such bad headlines for the whole of January. And my happy headline was completely over to the top and all. I said it's basically the women in cricket get their due. All the men stand down. Women take over their office, the executive office, the board office. They run the game because I just feel they'll run it better. And they email the Taliban to ask them that are you okay to talk with us on email? So I had something literally like that, so you just want, and everyone says, oh, you hate the BCCI, you hate the ICC. I don't hate these bodies. I know that there are people in those organizations that are doing really good work at the bottom level, doing your World Cricket League, running all the events, and trying and getting countries to come up through the ranks and so on. It's just the decision making at the top is so poor, and it is so the quality of leadership at the top is so poor. My wish for cricket is that it just finds itself by some freak miracle, good leaders across the board. And like, I mean, I could not improve on what Isam has said, that he's literally captured it for all of us, that it just becomes um, a global game, a fair game, a just game, and it doesn't. You don't see things like this happening. You don't see. We've seen that everywhere in global sports, the people that have the money are the ones that try to control the power. Like UEFA will try it in football and so on, but not like this. Not like this that you knock somebody off. A tournament where it is their willing right to play. Yeah, I mean, basically that. It's just like it's that whole men of straw thing. Like, we don't no more men of straw, please. That's my wish list.
Emma, do you have a wish list?
Fewer those are
Which
शायद
Shah
अगर
Rukh Khan
per
character
rule.
from the 90s should cricket look like?
I was thinking. I mean, straight away, Raju Ban Gaya Gentleman, right? Like that's Shah Rukh had already given us the pathway of how to be a good person. But I want to talk about, when I talk about my wish list, I just want to see everyone play everyone, and we've, like, for example, earlier last year, Bangladesh came to Pakistan and actually played this amazing test series. They swept Pakistan. It should have been one of the biggest stories of the year. And if we had a proper league system, then we would have, And so, I mean, it's insane because actually people don't even think in cricket that we should have a league like everybody else does. Like it doesn't happen in La Liga that uh, Real and Barca are like, बस हम एक दूसरे से 30 मैच खेलेंगे और बाकी जो घटिया टीमें हैं वो अपने आप से ही खेलें. Like that is the reality of cricket forever. And if you change it, just the potential for exciting, amazing cricket that you see, and Pakistan obviously being this amazing country that will give everyone a chance. So that the league will always be exciting. I would love to see something like that. That cricket is a proper cricket बड़ा हो जाए basically. ये अभी तक बच्चे की तरह ठहरा हुआ है. I would love for the sport to grow up.
Well said. So, to try to end on a slightly happier note, are there any associate nations that you're looking forward to viewing at this World Cup? Because, we've already had two pretty good stories today.
Nepal. I want to see Nepal do well in this World Cup because I think uh, they deserve it. They're known as the heart attack boys or something. It's amazing. It's an amazing stories. It's an amazing story of a cricket team that no one ever paid attention to, and now they're pulling their weight. So of course, for me, it'll be Nepal.
Yeah,
Italy. I'm going Italy. Just because I've watched so much Italian football and I'm a Brazil fan, but I love the Italy team. And they haven't been making it to the Football World Cup for the last many years.
Shocking.
Barring, yeah,
Ridiculous.
terrible. 2006 they won. After that, I think they played one World Cup.
Ridiculous.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to Italy. It's the JJ Smuts thing is insane. He's never been to Italy, and he's the captain. But yeah, I think three of the games are in Calcutta, so hopefully I'll go to Calcutta, catch one of their games. Hoping they'll do well, hoping they'll push the teams.
Oh, Kolkata.
I am, yes.
Okay.
I think one thing also which can happen I don't know if any of you follow American sports, but like obviously Hollywood is there as well. They're so good at making like these cinematic kind of documentaries jo bhi kahin about like their sports. And if you look at just, Isam brought up Nepal, just go and look at footages of the stadiums at Nepal when they're playing these qualifying games, dude. Like that kind of atmosphere, you cannot make that up. You can't buy it, and that's something like, I don't know, Anurag Kashyap is like is sent with like, okay, maybe not him, but someone younger
Asif
who's sent.
Kapadia.
Asif Kapadia, wow. So, but any of them is sent to the Nepal team and is documenting everything that's happening. You'd have blockbuster cinema come out of it, and I say that basically, we all know the big teams, but as you said, like the associate teams, if you just follow their journeys and the stories of the individual players and what they've done to get where they are, and the kind of already on day one, the amazing performances all of them have given. That's such a great narrative. That's such a great story. Bollywood, please do something about it.
Yeah, my answer was also Nepal because what Ahmer said about the stadiums, like last T20 World Cup, we saw like this, like Nepal games, ka mahal was another level. And they almost pulled one off against South Africa. Like it was just such a heartbreak.
I have to go
That's
with
right.
Oman
Emre,
or
you're
UAE
yeah.
because they've got Indians,
Oman?
Pakistanis, Sri Lankans playing together and Bangladeshis playing together.
Yeah.
I mean, like nothing better than just either of those is fine for me. Please, instead of this catch fighting rubbish that is happening.
If Pilcom was a cricket team,
If Pilcom was a
I was just going to say, I hope no one from UAE plays without a helmet this time. I hope they all wear helmet and no hats,
Is
please. No floppy
is that a
hats.
30-year-old reference that's older
Yes.
than
yes,
you, Sarthak?
yes, yes,
I'm
yes,
I'm older than 30, man. I was the 96 World Cup.
yes.
Amazing. What was his name? Sultan Zahur?
Yeah.
Zarawani.
Zarawani.
Zarawani. Yes.
वो भी Alan Donald को.
Yeah, any of those teams where all the South Asians play together. Please, yeah.
Nice. Chalo. So, on that note, we'll wrap up our podcast. Today has been a fantastic day. It has been a red letter day for the PCCI pod. We have facilitated a coup by getting three illustrious journalists, commentators, podcast hosts, writers. It has been really great having all three of you on, Mohammed, Sharda, and Ahmer. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarthak.
honestly,
Thank
if
you, Nishant.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming.
thank you. I
Richa.
was just saying, if the two missing windows were Usman and Fiddle, I was done for life. Like that's it.
Of course,
I
it
would
can
have
be done.
peaked.
That would have been, what is it? Trimurti?
That's Avengers
That was,
assembled.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, but just a huge pleasure. And also, I think all the Indians on this chat, I feel like you guys are really it appears are like a really vanishing tiny minority, but the fact that you're able to call out things the way they are, I think the rest of the world owes a lot to voices like yourselves, primarily to Sharda as well, who's I risking life and limb, it feels, every time she speaks. So it's an honor to be part of all of this conversation. And it's amazing to see that, we still have these linkages because of cricket, regardless of what happens at the top.
Yeah, guys, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thanks,
Thank you.
Emma. Thanks, Isam.
The prodigal son turned Messiah gets his second 100 in successive.
India have won in dramatic style.